It's rare for someone to find good bosses. Word good is subjective, I understand. So let me try this again. It's rare for someone to find leaders whom they can vibe with. And I have been extremely lucky to find such leaders, mentors, managers, coaches in my little career. Hi, I'm Prashant Uttekar, a learning enthusiast, and you are listening to the Relearning Podcast. And today we have not one but two of my previous managers for the topic Life is a Myth. Our first guest is Neeraj Deshpande, who has previously appeared on the Relearning Podcast in episode 7, talking about Relearn Addy. Neeraj is a senior learning and development professional with more than 25 years of experience. He has worked and conceptualized organizational development, leadership development, and various other learning and development interventions. And my second guest is Senthil Kumar R. Senthil is a veteran and experienced telecommunications industry specialist, skilled in product development, marketing, pricing, partnership, and is extremely passionate about life coaching. And now both these gentlemen have few things in common, like they like talking about cosmos, spirituality, dhyana, physics, and many such topics. As the mentioned experience, that may or may not be handy or will not even come in part of today's conversation. So let's see what's in store for us. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Prashant.
First things first. So I usually go on social media to talk about or ask for some topics or to break some myths. And it was Neeraj who said that hey, why not take this topic of life is a myth? So obviously it could not have been done on a comment or I don't know much about the subject. Let's put it that way. So we thought of making this episode and we pulled in Senthil as well for this. So Neeraj, what made you think of such a topic?
See, it's if you really look at it, it's not a topic. It's not a subject, Prashant. Now, whatever you say, if you look at it, whatever you call a topic, whatever you call a subject, it has a start point. It has an end point, right?
Correct.
And you can have an expertise on that, or you may not have an expertise on that. So it could be whatever. When I said life is a myth, what I meant over there was number of times we give a lot of importance to lot many things in life. We consider that as our life's mission. We focus a lot on our core values. As Stephen Covey also used to say, what is it that the person, any human being, what does he want from life? So he wants to live, he wants to love, he wants to learn, and he wants to leave a legacy. So those are the 4 L's that he spoke about, right? Now, many of us, people who are exposed to these various thoughts, we also start thinking from the perspective of leaving a legacy. And
True.
I have been thinking about all these things, the core values part, leaving a legacy part, the life mission part, doing something seriously in life part, taking life seriously as such. And then I think that you do all these things, and what's the end of it? One day you simply die. You are over. And after that, even whether your family members are crying after you or not, you're not there to see it. So how does it matter whether people remember you afterwards? It's like rewarding an employee after he has quit the job. What's the point? So you speak about core values, and I will live my life by these values, and I will die for these values, and this is my life's mission, and I have to achieve this, and I want to do that, and people should say these things. What crap, man? What's it giving you? Well, false satisfaction. That's about it. An inflated ego. What else?
So I'm just enjoying this, there are a couple of faces that cross my vision when you say people take themselves very seriously and want to leave a legacy. And I'm sure you, both of you have such faces in front of you as well.
Yeah. So, as someone had very beautifully said, there isn't a shred of evidence to consider life seriously. At the end of it, you're going to die. So what I'm trying to say is, see, if you really look at it, what is life? You're born one day and you die one day.
Correct.
The way in which you pass your time in between these 2 points is what life is,
Correct.
right? You do some great stuff on this planet, so-called great stuff, like Einstein did, like even Dr. Kalam did in India, or whoever did, right? Or you simply die, quote unquote, an insignificant death. As a human being, we are the most unnatural of the animals on this planet.
That's a good
And
point.
and the fact of the matter is, we are animal. We are part of animal kingdom, right? Right. But we are such an insecure, the
Creatures.
part of animal kingdom, that and then we call it our intelligence. That's the best part of it. We call our insecurity our intelligence. That it's our intelligence that made aeroplanes, that made vehicles, that made Internet of Things, whatnot,
So
right?
since you're talking
Uh,
about Internet of Things, let's get the telecom expert there.
yeah, that's what I said. You and Senthil, you have given considerable years of your life to that part, right?
Yes.
So let's bring Senthil in, and let us understand what Senthil has to say on this.
Wow. Ah, you covered everything, man. I don't know what you covered. You covered right from birth till death and everything which lies
In
in
between.
between. Wow. Fantastic. Uh, Let me just leave a question on the table for you, Neeraj.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
you defined life as something which happens between birth and death.
Yeah.
I'm not very sure. Could it be something which also happens after death? If the things which happen between birth and death is insignificant, is there something significant which happens after death?
I really
And should
don't.
we take
I'm
life
not dead
seriously
yet.
for it?
So that's what I said. I'm not really sure. I'm not dead
Yeah.
yet.
Don't know. You don't have to. You don't have to go to Paris to experience Paris.
Well,
Yeah.
if you could
And
elaborate on that.
how do you experience Paris without going to Paris? You experience Paris without going to Paris by listening to the stories who had been to Paris,
Pictures.
You
right?
you can only visualize. I don't think you can experience.
Very good, excellent. So that's the point which Prashant was saying. Life is a myth, right? Let's break those words. I think that's we are at the right inflection point when we want to come back to Prashant's point, right? Life is myth. There are two words, very important words, right? Life and myth. There, right? What do we understand about life and what do we understand about myth to put them together and reach to a conclusion, right? So, life, right? The way I define life, you defined it something which happens between birth and death. I define it simply the stories we tell ourselves every day about ourselves, right? I don't know what life I'm going to have. I only know the life which happened to me. And the life which happened to me is my memories.
Hmm.
And are my memories good enough? Oh, no. Human beings, you said, Neeraj, think their ignorance is their intelligence. I completely subscribe to that. Our memory is the worst form of memory human beings have ever experienced. The computer chips are much better than us because our minds can't remember. They can't remember. The only reason they remember something is to survive. They don't remember to give you an experience or a feeling of pleasantness. That's not the purpose at all, right? So my life is what I have experienced and what I keep telling to myself and to others about what I experienced. The stories I tell. That's my life, right? That's how I define my life. Now, what is a myth? A myth is a combination of factual data interleaved with imagination and creativity, right? People also call it creative freedom, where they can keep molding things as per their desire, right? So facts are molded, facts are interviewed with imagination, and you come up with something at the end and you call it mythology, from where the word myth originates, right? So life is a myth. As I said, if you put now these two concepts together, life is a story which I keep telling myself. And as with any story, a story is a combination of facts and a story is a combination of creativity, right? So I don't remember everything which happened to me 20 years back. If I ask you, Prashant and Neeraj, let's make it more interactive. Remember the first day you entered your professional life and you stepped into your office. Can you please tell me exactly hour by hour what happened in those first 8 hours in the office? Do you guys remember?
Maybe not entire time, entire 8 hours. Maybe
Yeah.
the entry or the first interaction, maybe.
Yeah. So I asked this question very scientifically. That's why you are saying not every hour, right? And if
Hmm.
I just ask, Prashant, please explain how was your first day in office? You could
Wonderful.
have just rattled off things,
Yeah, yeah.
right? You could have rattled off things where a combination of fact and a combination of creativity of what you remember, and you will start filling the gaps with your creativity and build a story and a mythology around it,
Hmm.
right? And you will complete the whole sequence for me and say, this is how my first day in office was. This is what I exactly did. You tell the story 10 times, even if 50% of those things were not factually correct, it will become your story. It will become the myth of the first day at office of Prashant,
True.
right? So even if we experience, Neeraj, to your earlier point, unfortunately we can't remember, right? So it is same as not experiencing something, right? So even when you said I have never experienced death because I was not dead, that's fine. Even if you experience it, God knows whether you will remember it fully or not, because
No,
things you have experienced till now you are not remembered.
see, that's precisely what I'm saying, actually, Senthil, that everything is a version that you tell yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's your story, right? It's not fact. It's not truth. It's nothing. It's just your story told by you to your own self,
And you are the
right?
hero.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you are hero. Sometimes you also very graciously choose to be villain in some of your stories,
Which is
right?
also a
I
hero. See, you know what? I was very bad.
Correct, correct, correct. Absolutely. The Darka Shah Rukh Khan,
Correct.
the negative hero.
good.
So yes, it's a
Hmm.
fact. It's a version. Whatever life is for you, it's the version that you choose to see. Even the way in which you look at life is the choice that you have exercised about looking at life.
Hmm.
And you might have experienced it, you might not have experienced it, you might have felt it, you might not have felt it, you might have thought it, you might not have thought it. But the the number of things and psychologically proven things like your paradigms, like your subconscious mind, like number of things, they play the role of a filter in your mind, and all the data that comes in, right, and is retained by you has already gone through those many filters. Whatever
Hmm.
didn't fit that filter is already filtered out, and that's why you don't remember all those 8 hours of the first day,
Correct.
right? You remember one of the instance, and quite a number of times you might not be remembering even one single moment of that day, but you have heard 3 4 different people telling some interesting stories about their first day, and then you start creating that story for yourself कि अरे यार
As
फिर
a
मेरा दिन
memory.
इतना interesting कैसा था. How is it that I don't remember anything of that first day? Then I create the entire first day, which is all fiction. But yeah, I keep on repeating that story for myself. And as Goebbels used to say, you tell a lie 25 times, it
Yes.
becomes a truth. It doesn't become truth for the world, it becomes truth for yourself.
Your truth. True.
So, so, so that's how it is. And I guess that's precisely why people give that much importance to those quote unquote core values, that life mission. These are
True.
the glorifying words to make your story more attractive. And whatever said and done, majority of human beings are, as I said, as as an animal, the human being is an insecure one, so he needs appreciation by other people for whatever he is. So that appreciation and recognition is an innate need for the human being. Now, to get that appreciation and recognition, sometimes yes, we create fictional stories. No two ways about it, right? As some of the HR organizations also have done the survey, and they say that all almost all the resumes are 60% truth and 40% of creative writing.
Absolutely. It's just a fun exercise, right? Let's go back and start writing first day at office, first day at school, first day at college, first day after marriage, my first date. Uh, Start writing, start thinking about it. See what you can write, how much you remember, how much you don't remember, how much of that is, and then once you write it, to figure out how much of that is a story you created versus the factual data, go and check with the
Absolutely.
person with whom you shared that moment and say,
Correct.
did it exactly happen? And you will have fun. You will realize that person has created their own story which doesn't match to
Yeah.
your story, right? So yeah, that's where life is with. Prashant, what do you say?
So it is very simple. When in a public gathering or a social setup, when there's a story that I'm trying to share, and if I get recognition and laughs or humor attached to it, and that point may not be even some relevant point in my experience or life, but I will keep saying it because I get some attention. And there could be some hidden points which I keep and I like, and they may not get that kind of attention. Example, it happens in marriage, right? I love talking about, let's say, the school when I pass, every time I pass my school in Pune. Now it has come to this that, whenever my wife and we go, she tells me that, you're going to say this and the momentum is killed. So that's where we are at, right? And that's how I would look at, right? If you're saying life is a myth, I was also looking at the other dimension of it. And this goes to, and I'm both of you know, this goes to my favorite movie, The Matrix. That means, and there's a dialogue there that, ignorance is a bliss. And he says in the relevance that, I know that this world is not real. I know that everything around me is not real. And he has a bite of a food and he says, ignorance is a bliss. So that's beauty, right? That's another point that I wanted to bring. That, and again, both of you are masters at this in your own capacity. Senthil will try to figure it out with physics, and Neeraj with more spirituality, or he's a huge believer of a God. So when we say that, and I don't think there's a word for Maya in English, or very, there are close words, but I'm not sure if there is a real word for Maya. So what is your take on that? Both of you, either of you could go for it. Let's go with Senthil this time.
Uh, Take on Maya, you mean?
Yes.
What is Maya? Ah, well, fantastic. The closest word in English is called illusion, right?
Okay.
Or a mirage.
For
Or a mirage.
or a mirage
Miraj.
or an illusion. Yeah, but most of these words don't have an equivalent right fit. What is Maya? What is illusion? Okay, let's look at little differently. Let's look at say you are playing video game, okay,
Mhm.
and you are controlling a few characters in the video game, and the game is on, and you feel good that you are in charge, right? What happens if few of those characters or one of those characters realize that they are just characters of the video game, right?
Hmm.
And they try to exercise their free will, right? Please focus on the word free will. If they start exercising their free will in the game, what happens to the controller? The controller is out of control, right?
Irrelevant.
So as a controller, it is in your interest that the characters never come out of the characters, that the characters
Hmm.
never realize that they are mere characters, that the characters never realize that there is an illusion around them, or there's a mirage, or there's a Maya around them, right? And they keep performing what they're asked to perform. Now bring it back. Imagines ourselves as characters in a video game which is played at a universal level, right? It is in our interest, and it is in the interest of that controller, creator, whatever you want to call that thing, that we don't realize that we are characters in this mere game, right? And we keep, it's the interest of the larger good that we are entangled what is happening around us. This entanglement of me to what is happening around me is actually defined as Maya. The moment
Interesting.
I will break this entanglement of me as an individual to everything happening around me, once this bond, this entanglement, whatever you want to call it, is broken, the curtain of illusion is lifted. There is no more Maya, right? You will realize the real truth. So this curtain of Maya is required in some sense to run this universe as it is running, right? That's my take on Maya. That's how I look at Maya. Is it good, bad, ugly? I don't know, right? It's needed. It's needed. Some people are able to lift that curtain and look beyond it. Some people, most of us are not capable of doing it. But that's how I suppose that's how things are meant to be, and that's how they are.
Interesting.
So I don't want to get into the spiritual definitions or spiritual understanding of what is Maya, what is Brahma, what is Dvaita, and what is Advaita, and all that stuff, because it is how do I put it? It is at the same time. At the same time, it is very simple to understand. It's very complex, you know. So let's not get there, and that's why I have nowadays. What I've started thinking is majority of questions that you come across and majority of questions that keep on troubling you, the answers lie in this lifetime. The answers lie in front of your eyes. The answers lie in your own thinking. The answers lie in your own feelings, and majority of them, right? Just because I consider life to be something like whatever the model of life that might be there in front of my eyes. At the same time, I can't forget that there are people who are living exactly opposite kind of life.
True.
Right? So the kind of life that I choose not to even see existing, there are people who are living that kind of life. So whatever that doesn't fit my paradigms, whatever that doesn't fit my conditioning, is actually Maya for me.
Very, very interesting, because you're actually going back to that point of it's my reality, it's my view. It's actually.
Yeah. See, so in Sanskrit, it is called Adhyatma. Right? So Adhyatma is, and that roughly gets translated to spirituality. So something related to spirit. That's how they look at it. But if you look at the entire Adhyatma part of it, it is about Atma, first thing, right? And that means that something, that cosmic power that resides within this structure that I have been presented with. The structure called my body. So at this point in time, that soul or whatever, that Atma, that resides within me. Have I understood it? So Adhyatma for me is nothing but a study done by an individual to understand the Swarup of that Atma.
Do we need to understand?
Okay, so that's the Adhyatma part of it. So I have said enough. Let me not go there. I'm talking only about myself.
Sure.
Okay, over here I'm talking only about myself. Have I understood myself? Whatever that I think, where does it come from? Whatever I feel, where does it come from? Have I understood that? And that is where I will go to the earlier point which Senthil had brought in, the memory part. How much of it do I remember? How much of my conditioning do I remember? Because my way of thinking, my way of feeling is ruled by certain things. Right? Psychologists
isn't that your experience, your learning over the years?
There are a number of things.
Yeah.
Number of things. See, some of the things, in fact, they say that majority of your conditioning gets over by the time you are 14. Majority of your conditioning. Okay. So by the time you are 14, you haven't experienced typically what we call as experience of life. You have experienced that life, but you, as Senthil rightly puts, you can't remember it, maybe.
Yeah.
However, whatever that you have seen, whatever that you have heard, whatever that you have been told, that is imprinted somewhere on your mind, right?
True.
And which rears up its head sometime later in your life as well. And that's why it is called conditioning part of it. The mind gets conditioned earlier, the effects you get to see later, right? But how many of us really give it a thought? Why is it that these thoughts enter my mind? Why is it that I feel in this fashion? People say it very clearly. I have a short temper, right? A lot many of us, or a lot many people, you will find saying this. I have a short temper. But why do you have a short temper?
But my
And
point is,
that's why,
do we need to ask? How
so
important is that?
yeah, absolutely. So everyone, I think that is individual. I think that decision is individuals. So that's precise, and that is where I'm coming from. Rather, the point that I was coming from is that quite a lot of times you decide the life and the direction of your life
Yeah.
for yourself, and quite a number of times you choose to be influenced by what comes from the outside. Choice is yours. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong, right? But you can't live in vacuum. So either you think about your life, or others will think about your life. Or not others will think about your life, others will make you think about your life on their parameters.
Very, very interesting, Prashant. You kept on asking that question. Why do we need to know
Do we need to
something,
know?
right? Do we need to know? Come on, let me ask you a counter question. You call yourself a curious learner and you are running this podcast called Relearning. How do you learn? What is the starting of learning? Starting of learning anything is questioning.
Yeah.
If you and if you don't question anything, you will not learn anything. And the only thing which I believe we do between birth and death is learning.
Yes, I believe
Like
that. True.
people ask what is the objective of life. I think the only objective of life is to gain information and intelligence. As my friend Neeraj says, intelligence is a bad word, but yeah, gain information at least, right? Whatever you make out of it, intellect or intelligence is up to you, but at least gain information, right? And how do you gain information? You will only gain information if you are curious enough, if you ask questions, right? So asking question is ingrained in you.
True.
You don't have a choice, right? You don't have a choice. Let me give you a challenge. For next 24 hours, can you live a life without adding any information to your life? Right? And while the information can come inside involuntarily inside me, the moment I learned to speak as a kid, the moment I learned to walk as a kid, the moment I understood that I can control the information I gather, I want to control. I want to ask questions. I want to know exactly what happens. I want to know why this happens to me. So this
No,
is the
that's
whole.
only, no, I think, Senthil, that's only the so-called intelligent people who want to do that, right?
I beg to differ. All of us do. All of us do. All of us have a different question. So the intelligent guys could have a different question, and a non so intelligent people like me could have a different question. But we still have our own questions. I would love to see a gentleman or a lady who doesn't have a question of their own.
Okay, maybe. But I can tell you that there are quite a few things about which I don't have any questions in my mind.
No, gentlemen, you are getting into the rabbit hole. I'm not talking about a subject specific thing. Yes, it's possible very much that about a particular subject we may not have an opinion or a question or a curiosity. I'm
Correct.
talking in general in life. We always have questions. It could be about anything.
Correct.
But I have
Yeah,
my
but
own question, right? And I want to ask that question, right? And that's where Prashant I was going when you said, "Do you want to know?" That's my survival. I want to know because I need to survive. If I have to
No,
survive,
no,
I
no,
will
no.
ask question. If
My
not about
question
this
was
thing,
different.
about something else.
No, no, no. You're right. You're right. I get it. I am curious about things around learning, and only 5 things I can call. But 95 I'm not curious about. My question to Neeraj was more around when you say that things occur, or there is the way I lead is how that happens, and is that realization or asking questions about knowing self, how important is that? It does it is a natural process, because very early I knew about myself how I want, or what at least I knew exact direction, or the path or the road. I knew that this is what I want to be. I knew about myself, thankfully, a little early. it's things become easier. You don't take unnecessary baggage or
So let me give my view, and I'm sure Neeraj would have his own version of this
sure.
answer, right? So do I need to know about myself? Do I need to ask questions? Is that what you're saying, right? Is it
Hmm.
necessary? May not be.
Yeah,
Everybody's individual choice, to be bluntly put
true.
it on the table, right? You do what you want to do. You don't do because somebody tells you to do. How many things you have done in your life which somebody has told you to do, right?
Hmm.
You would have done it, but half-heartedly. Most of the time, you do things which you want to do, right? And kids are the best examples of it.
Yes.
That's what we are naturally are, right? And second thing I would say, which will be contradicting my first statement, is we always have this grudge in life that the other person doesn't understand me, right? And
Hmm.
most probably that other person lives inside the house with you, right? Right. And when we have this grudge that the other person doesn't understand me, let me ask that question the other way around: do you understand yourself for somebody else to understand you?
Hmm.
Because you are the person telling stories about yourself. If you don't bloody understand yourself, how the hell are you telling the stories about yourself?
Hmm.
What are those stories considered? How honest are you when you're telling those stories? So before we have the expectation from others that they should understand me, they should understand what I'm going through, they should sympathize, empathize, love me, care me. Do I care about myself? Do I love myself? Do I empathize about myself? Do I sympathize with myself? Do I know who am I? And if I have no interest in knowing who am I should simply shut and go off and don't ever question again that the other person doesn't understand me. That's my personal take.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, I agree with what Senthil is saying. As I always quote Amruta Pritam on this. Uh, Amruta Pritam in one of her books says, इंसान अपने आप को ही कहाँ पहचानता है जो दूसरों को पहचानने की कोशिश भी करे,
Very
right?
nice.
So it's as simple as that. And in any case, if you really look at it, um, it's almost impossible for majority of us to know and understand ourselves. Forget knowing and understanding other people. It's too far a journey,
Hmm.
right? So that is one part of it. When we
I
say
I'm just I'm just checking so many emails which start with hi dear or so and so. I understand, comma.
uh, if anyone at any point in time, if he or she can put a full stop instead of that comma, then that person would have achieved something in their life.
Hmm. Yeah, there's
Okay.
no ask. Correct.
So that's how I look at it. When I thought about this subject, when we were talking about it,
Hmm.
discussing, and then I suggested this quote unquote topic: the life is a myth. I actually didn't want to go on a philosophical or spirituality level, right?
Okay.
Actually wanted this topic to remain at a very base, materialistic, physical level,
It's difficult, man.
right? No, and from that perspective, I was looking at this life. That what all things that we typically fight for,
Hmm.
or rather, what are the typical things that we quote unquote again live for? The kind of ambitions that we have, the kind of career that we want to choose, the kind of life choices that we make. Where I just wanted to show all these words, these big words that we use, the career guidance, the career choice, life choice, the ambition, uh, the aim in life, goal in life, my vision, my mission, my values, all these things that we keep on talking about. If you really look at it, it's all humbug. I call it all humbug. You actually decide one direction for your life. Okay, and if I have to, so just take a quick jump into the spiritual side and come back.
Hmm.
So if I will say, as per the Hindu philosophy as such, they say कि 84 लाख योनियों के बाद मनुष्य जन्म की प्राप्ति होती है. Okay,
Hmm.
so if I have to go into that part, then इतनी इतनी कठिनाइयों के बाद if you have got a मनुष्य जन्म, then What the wrong with you? When you say that I won't do this in my life, I won't do that in my life, this is right, this is wrong, this is bullshit. Come on, experience everything. Try and do as many things as you want, as you can. Forget want. Leave your wants aside, leave your needs aside. Do as much as you can. You never know what you will like. How can you decide something that I won't like beforehand? Unless and until you do it. Right? See, I always say that the fear in our life is introduced by our parents. Okay, human being inherently is not an afraid animal. He wants to experiment everything. You look at kids. You have a daughter, right?
Yeah.
Who is not very old, right?
Correct.
Observe her. Majority of times, Miraya must not be walking. I don't know about now, but at least 2-3 years back. When a child learns how to so-called walk, right? They don't walk, they run.
Correct.
They run majority of times. And it's the bloody parents who tell them, don't run, you will fall. You will hurt yourself. Slow down. It's the parents who slow down their children. Right? That's one thing. Second biggest disservice that children do, and that is where I will just refer to what Senthil was saying, that we keep on asking questions. But in our society, in Indian society, it's the parents who kill that spirit of asking questions. We don't allow our kids to ask questions. When they start asking questions, after a couple of questions, we get irritated and we start telling them, shut up, just do what I asked you.
True, good analogy. Now it is I am asking questions about my parenting. You got me.
No, so everyone has. I have asked those questions to myself. It's perfectly okay. So quite a number of times, all this knowledge is in retrospect. Okay. So that is one part of it. But what I mean is, if you don't ask questions to yourself, if you don't try to understand yourself, everything is a myth.
Okay, fantastic. Just to come to what Neeraj said, parents don't get frustrated, and that's the reason why they ask kids to shut up. They feel that they will get insulted when they were not able to answer a particular question. Simple question like, why is sky blue? Come on, I read it somewhere. I don't remember why sky is blue.
If you are a physicist like a Senthil, he would know the answer, that it happens because of the refraction of rays and whatnot, right? But try explaining it to your kid.
No way, can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, and that's where the frustration creeps in. So
absolutely,
it's a frustration part, and one is, it's a frustration because shit, I don't know the answer, and why are you asking me questions? So I start feeling, ignorant in front of my kid, which I don't like, or I can't explain the actual reason, even if I know that. So that frustration makes me shut them up, whatever the reason is. But eventually, we shut them up.
Yeah, just to give a tangential shift to what we are talking on, life is a myth, right? And a thought on the table, would like to have your thoughts and views and comments and questions and disagreements on it. So what is, how do I experience life, right? I experience life in my mind as a human being. So life which has happened to me, which is life happened in past, is a life for me, is one version of life.
Right.
Life which is going to happen to me, I keep dreaming about it. That's another version of life I live. Right? The third version of life I live is the life I'm living now. I'm living in present. Right? So there are three lives I live: the life I lived, the life I'm going to live, and the life I'm living. Right? And my thoughts about all three of them constitute what we call as a life. Unfortunately, what I lived and what I'm going to live, both are figment of my imagination. right? Because what I lived is my interpretation of what I experienced. What I'm going to live is purely in my interpretation of what's going to happen to me. So none of them are near to truth. Forget everything else, right? So that it's very close to mythology, myth, or whatever you want to call it. But yes, what's happening to me now, where I'm living right now, this moment, is this the truth? Let's look at it. Let's bifurcate it a little bit, right? So in today, in now, in present, what's happening? In present, there are only two things happening. Things which is happening to me and things which I am making happen, right? My actions, what I am doing versus what is being done to me, right? What is being done to me could be physical, could be thoughts, could be behaviors, could be what you are experiencing, but something which you are not an active manipulator of, right? You are just witnessing it. And then something which you are originating from your own and you are forcing that action to be done. Let's make it simple. Somebody telling me a joke, I'm enjoying it, I'm laughing, I'm not the originator, I'm the recipient. Right? But if I'm writing something, if I'm saying something, I'm the originator. Right? So when I listen to something, when I experience something, even in the present moment, it's a myth. Because it's just the waves of sound or waves of light which is entering my ears or my eyes. And then my brain paints a picture around it based on my experience. That may not be exactly what my eyes are looking. My eyes don't look. My eyes don't observe. My eyes just let the light in. Observation is done by my brain, right? So there's an iota of interpretation in there. There's an iota of creativity in there. So what is happening to me is my experience, and it's a myth in some sense. The only thing which is not myth in the whole thing is what I'm doing. Right? Because I'm saying a word means I'm saying a word. It's not a myth. It's happening. Right? So the way I'm looking at it is 3 dimensions, past, present, future. Even in present, break it down. What's happening to me versus what I am doing. And I think at the end of the day, you zero in on one thing. The only one thing which is truth is what I'm doing.
So another tangent I just want to throw, right? Because in any case, life is myth. So let's dabble with all the tangents possible.
Sure.
Another tangent which I wanted to throw was actually this, what we keep on talking about, and I buy at a larger level or at a grander level, whatever Senthil was saying just now, I completely buy that. I completely agree with it. But another tangent also is that what we call as present is a myth. In reality, only past and future. These are the only two things that exist.
You guys have to go slow.
Oh, okay.
Let's go for it. Go for it, Neeraj.
Okay, so just what I just said is in the past.
That happened.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And whatever that I will say now, henceforth, is future. Now, even that word henceforth has become part of my past.
Yes.
There is nothing called as present. There is only past and there is only future. There is a beautiful, they call it drushtant. Drushtant is basically a kind of example through which you can pick up various learnings. So they say if you are bathing in a river, right, you can't dip twice in the same river.
True.
Okay, so it's exactly like that.
True.
So it's about every moment, and that's why they say the actual term that gets used is live in the moment. It's not live in the present.
So absolutely, the slice you take of the continuous motion of time is your present. That slice could be as big or as small, depends what you can manipulate and what you can live, right?
Again, the frame of reference.
Oh, absolutely. If
if you can experience a picosecond, why not? I cannot. Right. For me, the present is a window of 1 minute at least, or no, even 1 second. I don't know. Can I
You
really
don't know,
experience or
man.
not?
Depends what you're doing
Yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on
and where you at. Are you witnessing or are you doing? Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
true.
Absolutely.
Now, I'll give you a more simplistic example to that,
Sure.
Prashant. In a company of a beautiful woman, an hour sounds like
Exactly.
a
I was
minute.
going for a basketball example, but this is more like it. Fair enough.
or if you are in a company of a person who has bad breath or body odor,
Yeah.
even 1 minute sounds as if lifetime.
Oh yeah. The great Einstein used to say the other later part is sit on a hot stove.
Sit on a hot stove. Absolutely. The first part was exactly like Einstein.
Yeah.
The second part, कुछ तो नीरज देशपांडे डालना चाहिए ना.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And I think, see, what you're saying is right? Because time is relative. Time is not absolute. The way I look at it is very simple, right? You can't. There are two things to any conversation: a question and an answer. We are talking about this quite a lot today. Can any answer be original? No, because
Like
all answers exist here in this universe,
Neeraj said, yes.
right? The only thing which could be original is the question you asked.
Yeah.
Right.
Only the questions are original. Yeah.
Only the questions could be original.
Could be original.
Could be original. Answers could never be original because answers exist here. You cannot think of an answer which doesn't exist. You can think of a question which doesn't exist, but you can't think of an answer which doesn't exist, because if it doesn't exist, it is not an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you, Senthil. I was having one of the arguments with one of those rationalists once, and he was talking about science has done this, science has done that, and all that stuff. And I asked him one simple question. I said, show me a single thing that science has created which wasn't here on this planet.
Nothing.
So from that perspective, there isn't any invention. There are only discoveries.
Oh, absolutely.
That is true.
Truth. Yeah.
There isn't a standard answer to the kind of things that we are looking at, right? In fact, when I look at myself, I come to a simple conclusion that I can't state anything as a certainty. Because I find myself contradicting certain things which I speak, which I do, which I passionately advocate, and I keep on contradicting it. So from that perspective, when someone was actually asking me, or rather, all of us were doing exercise of, identifying our core values in life, the only core value that I could identify was contradiction.
In fact, I'm stopping you there because I have realized that both you, Senthil, and some of the close friends that I have, the reason I like the conversation is because you can contradict your own thought, forget others.
Yeah.
I have seen Senthil also exhibit this quite some time. Even during this conversation, he's contradicted. He's given 2 points for an answer, one for and one against, and accepting. It's not like just for a debate or a conversation.
It's not a debate or it's not a conversation. It's both those thoughts with the equal intensity, they coexist. Both those realities coexist. See, both the realities coexist, and that's why life is a myth. You can't be certain about one reality.
Nice.
The moment you are certain about one reality, it becomes factual. That becomes a fact, right? When there is a contradiction about the realities, and both the realities sounds equally true, then it's a myth.
I like that. Then if you keep one thought and you are sure of one reality, everything you try to do is to support that statement or that what you said.
I was trying to say when you talk about contradiction, right? So what's the extreme form of contradiction? Is when you pick two ends of the same spectrum, and state both of them, right? There could be no more contradictory things than that, right? One A end and one B end, and a good example of that would be a zero and an infinity, right? Zero is nothingness, and an infinity is everythingness, or God knows what it is. Nobody knows because it's infinity, right? So, and coming back to what Neeraj was talking about, the spirits earlier and the spirituality earlier, right? So obviously the contradiction, while it seems like a contradiction, it's actually an unifying point, because the zero and infinity are actually the same points. Depends where you're looking at from, where you're approaching it from, right? You can't reach to infinity without reaching to zero, and you can't reach to zero without reaching to infinity.
Nice.
Right. The moment you start realizing that it's actually not contradiction, it's unifying, then you start feeling comfortable about the contradiction. And that's, Neeraj, to your point, it just moves from Dvaita to Advaita, right? So from duality to singularity.
Yeah, but then it's still only a consideration. Then it's still a myth. Because then it is dependent on your point of view, or where you are standing, or the perspective from which you are looking at it.
Oh, absolutely. Vijay Hazare considered the run request by Vijay Merchant in the match, right? Like, same consideration.
Yes. So it's absolutely about that. It's about perspectives then.
Yeah. True. Absolutely true.
And the moment it is about perspectives, that still is not what we typically know as a definitive answer. That's why I call it a myth. That's about it.
But one thing, I think the myth is very interesting. All myths are interesting.
Yes,
all
absolutely.
myths are interesting. All myths are fun.
Yes.
So
there's so much drama around every myth because you can build your own stories.
Correct. You can have your own interpretation. You can have your own story. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Good. So, any parting thoughts for the episode?
The only thing that I would like to say, Prashant, is when you say life is a myth, whether it's a myth or it's not a myth, it actually doesn't matter much. What matters is, what do you think? Because it's your life, right? You have no right to speak about life in general, in any case. Because Prashant Uttekar's life is different than Senthil Kumar's life than mine. So for me, it could be a myth. For you, it could be something else. For Senthil, it could be something else altogether. But as long as we are clear in our mind what it is, and for that, you need to ask a lot many questions to yourself. You need to be ready. This is my take again, or the final thoughts as such, which are completely on my part. I would say, instead of coming to a decision, instead of coming to a very clear-cut idea about what is wrong, what is right, what needs to be done, what shouldn't be done, something ethical, something unethical, something moral, something immoral. Coming to these kind of judgments, before coming to these kind of judgments, ask yourself, why are you thinking in that fashion? Because there are practitioners on both the sides, and for those practitioners, whichever side that they are on, that's the fact, that's the truth, that's the right way of leading and dealing with life. Now, unless and until you keep on asking your questions to yourself and asking questions to your own thoughts and preconceived notions, and try and get more and more self-awareness by way of self-exploration, and there are clear-cut methods available, by the way. I'm not saying going to meditation or go to Vipassana for 21 days and only then you will get this sakshatkar about life. There are simple methods to do that, right? But everyone needs to make that habit to gain an understanding of themselves and then decide what is life for themselves. And if you can't decide what is that life for you, it will always remain a myth, because then you are living somebody else's version.
Life is a myth, right? We agreed to some extent it's a myth. When it's a myth, it's not truth. And if it's not truth, just have fun.
Enjoy it.
Have it. Enjoy it. Have fun with it.
Keep asking questions.
Keep
It's always
asking
a book.
questions.
It's always...
So thank you so much, Neeraj. Thank you so much, Senthil. I know we are doing this on a Sunday afternoon, so thank you for taking time out to make this episode a possibility. So see you soon.
Thank you,
Absolutely,
Prashant.
see you soon. And Senthil, it was great, man, after such a long time.
Oh, absolute fun, Neeraj. Thanks a lot. And Prashant, thanks a lot for connecting both of us. We have
Yeah,
really had
absolutely.
some good fun.